What's up, everybody? This is Devin White, linebacker for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You're listening to the LCC Network. Go Bucks.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Commissioners Clubhouse on the LCC Network for the 13th off-season episode of 2020. I had to think about that. I was like, are we really 13 weeks into this already? I guess we are. I've got Jameson and Cody on the show with me today. What's going on, y'all?
Aloha.
Hey, what's up, guys?
What's up?
What's up? So this week we've got our top 10, way too early, top 10 IDP rankings as we promised last week. So we've set some guys up. Each of us did a top 10 list. We have a consensus top 10 list. Again, way too early. This is way before the draft, way before anything else that happens in the offseason, but after free agency. So we do know where a lot of these veteran players will be playing in 2020. But this will definitely change as we go along, but we like to kind of do this early just to kind of get a feel for where we think some players may fall as we move toward through the offseason. So real quick question. This is from Patrick, coronavirus edition, apparently. Who would be your two NFL players or coaches you would want to be quarantined with? Or two that you would not want to be quarantined with?
All right. So I'll start off since this is my question because I immediately started thinking, God, if I get stuck with someone, they better at least be entertaining. And so one of the ones I had to go with, just because I feel like they would just be saying some crazy stuff, would be Antonio Brown. I feel like Antonio Brown's got to be one I definitely want to be quarantined with. I think I could get him to tweet absolutely anything and he'd do it. And it would make headlines. I think that'd be great. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
I think you would piss me off.
Yeah, I agree. I would be on the opposite end of that. Like anyone but like the opposite of Antonio Brown, right? Like I'd want like someone really relaxed.
Just on a real note, I'd like his counterpart, Juju would be one of mine.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
That'd be a lot of fun. I couldn't do Jalen Ramsey, Odell Beckham, Antonio Brown. None of those guys.
There's a difference between being an asshole and being like stupid. And like Antonio Brown's just stupid, not necessarily an asshole, in my opinion. Like when I think about him, maybe he is an asshole.
I don't know. You know, John Gruden would be fun to be quarantined with. I know it sounds weird.
And that was my number two. Actually, was Gruden because I think that'd be great.
He'd pull you down in the footage room, the video room, and you would just sit there for like 10 hours in the film room, just breaking stuff down. He'd be like, "Watch this," and you like the wide tube banana thing that he always did in the quarterback camp or whatever. Like that might be a lot of fun, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. None of the wild guys though. I don't know if I could survive living with any of those wild guys for that long. Be a little too much. All right, guys. Well, way too early IDP rankings. We'll jump into this. Pat, you got a sound drop you can play for us?
I do. I've got a great sound drop. Here's a little bit of throwback for you guys, Madden 96 style.
I will say if that is what we're considering great now, our podcast is going the opposite direction. We are officially on the downhill. we are on the downhill side of this podcast, and it's about time we probably wrap this thing up if that's where we're going. But way too early IDP rankings. Here we go. Number one, consensus. No surprise. I think everybody in America has this guy. Darius Leonard.
Wait, I got a sound drop. Here we go.
If you want to crown them, then crown their.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know who else you have here. Even last season, his injury-riddled season, he was still a top three guy by average. And I think he was the number one linebacker by game average, only behind Budda Baker, honestly, and a per game average. Absolutely phenomenal. He's a playmaker. He's a consistent tackler. He's high engine. Anybody, I couldn't imagine anybody but Darius Leonard, number one. Number two, Budda Baker, strong safety. He's our consensus. Patrick and I have him at number two. Cody has him at number three. So not a lot of movement there. I think everyone expects him to be on the field a lot. He, again, kind of like Darius Leonard, playmaker, solid tackler. I think, and maybe you guys think the same way, it's a defense that should be on the field a lot, like it was last year. Offense is pretty, air raid, fast paced. The defense gets a lot of snaps. Cody, any reason you put Jamal Adams right ahead of him? Just curious.
I don't know. I just like his upside more.
Okay. Well, they've both
I
finished. Go ahead.
I was about to say, I just think Buda Baker's kind of like maxed out at what he did last year. I don't see him doing any better than that. And I think Jamal Adams definitely has. I don't know. Jamal has got that star potential.
Jamal Adams will definitely recover on last year's season, which we'll talk a little more about him in a minute. But yeah, they both have finished as DB1s in back. Jamal Adams in 2018, Buda Baker in 19. So both great players. Number 3, consensus, Blake Martinez. And this is because Jamal Adams was not on Patrick's list at all. So he'll be down a little bit further down. Blake, you got to defend that, Pat. We'll get to you defending that. Blake Martinez, I think we're all excited to see him there in New York. He's been a solid stud IDP linebacker.
It's funny, he's our consensus 3, but no one had him in our top 3.
No.
Or even top 4, actually.
No. You and I had him at 5. Cody had him at 6. So we don't expect him to be 3, but that's kind of where he fell in our consensus. But we all expect him to be a top 10 guy pretty easily, as he has been most of his career there.
Especially in New York.
Yeah, especially in New York, in a defense that should be on the field a lot. Number 4, Jalen Smith. We talked about him maybe a month and a half ago. I think I asked you guys who your number 1 IDB player would be if it wasn't Darius Leonard. And I remember Cody for sure said Jalen Smith. I don't remember what you said, Patrick, but why do we like him so much? Why is he all the way at number 4?
Well, I think we've just been, at least for me, I can speak for myself, just disrespecting him and not considering him as like first round potential in or at least our IDP format. I mean, this is a guy you got to look at. You got to consider him in the first 2 rounds of the draft, in my opinion. Very consistent, still very young in his career, has a bright future ahead of him. And again, I just felt like at this point we've disrespected him long enough. He's got to be up here, in my opinion.
Okay. Cody, any thoughts? You had him at 5, I think.
Yeah. No. I like Jalen Smith. I think there's always been kind of a shinier toy sitting right there. And then Jalen's kind of been just progressing along after I think he came out with an injury out of Notre Dame that some people didn't even think he'd be back with. But he keeps progressing, and then last year I think what he showed consistently last year really kind of like lets people think he can take that step into like stardom a little bit, and he can actually lead that Dallas Cowboy. And there's that, I don't know, a little bit of air in the balloons of who's the second backer there, the white dude,
Leighton Vander Esch.
Yeah, like
wait, not Sean Lee? No, I'm just kidding.
Either one, I guess.
Is he even there anymore? Sean?
Yes.
He is.
He signed a 1-year, like $4 million deal, I think, to come back this season, or something like that.
But here's the thing about Jalen is that he had fewer sacks and fumble recoveries in 2020, but grew in terms of points per game. And the way he did it was his assists went from 38 games in 28 or 38 assists in 2018 to 56. He was involved in way more plays. And I think it's because Vander Esch wasn't as involved in the defense this previous year compared to 18. So maybe that had something to do with it. Who knows? Maybe Jalen takes a slight step back, but I still think he's anywhere between 40 to almost 60 assists in the season for 2020. And that's going to be a good year.
Yep. And Vander Esch has a lot of injury history, both in college and now in the NFL, even in only his 2 seasons. So I would expect Jalen Smith to not take a step back that much, even if Vander Esch appears to be healthy, because he's kind of taking on like that Leonard Fournette kind of thing almost, where he's just kind of seems to be perpetually in that state. But number 5. Consensus is Jordan Poyer, even though none of us have him that high. Pat, you have him at 7, Cody at 7, I have him at 6. He has been a staple in the Bills defense the last couple of years now. An IDP guy in the top 10 the last few years now. Just re-signed with the Buffalo Bills. Nothing about his situation has changed that we would expect him to fall outside of the top 10. So I think he's one of those really safe, tackle-heavy, consistent DBs. That kind of
He
wraps
knows
him
what
up.
he's supposed to do with Buffalo. Like, he's just got his like little fixture in Buffalo.
Number 6, a similar player, maybe a little more dynamic, I think. Landon Collins. Pat, you have him at 6. Cody, he's not on your board, and I have him at 4, I believe. 3. I've got him at 3. So he's up here. He came back from the injury in 2018, showed us what he could do again. Again, nothing about his situation, in my opinion, is changing dramatically. So I've got him back up there in the top 10. Cody, he's not on your board. Why is that?
I mean, he's just right outside my board, honestly.
Okay.
I just like some guys a little better. I think some guys are a little safer. It's either really came down between Derwin and Landon, and I ended up going with Derwin. I think Derwin's got a little more, I don't know, a little more upside.
Okay. All right. Well, you went with Derwin. Pat went with Landon. I went with both. So we'll see how that plays in the rankings here in a minute. Number 7, Jamal Adams. Cody, you got him at number 2. We talked about that a minute ago. I've got him at 8, coming off the injury. Still averaged a lot of points per game last season. In fact, if you take away the 2 games he was out plus the 1 game where he got hurt, he would have been, let me find my notes just to be sure. I think he would have been 11, if I'm not mistaken, or 10 on his per game average. He would have been 10 in his per game average. So we expect him to bounce back. Except for you, Patrick. He's not in your top 10.
It's not necessarily not going to him, but some of the other guys, I don't want to, like, for instance, one of the guys that's in my top 10 who didn't make our consensus top 10 was Fred Warner, very young linebacker.
Cody,
I have
stop it.
high. No. I mean, seriously, Fred Warner is the guy in San Francisco and a very loaded a team that has a good offense, in my opinion, a better defense. We saw the capability in 2019, finishes LB9. And that was with Luke still in the league. Obviously, Luke Kuechly not being league, that's going to change things up in terms of the rankings. And I think he's going to continue to improve and push that top 5 LB status this year.
About Quan Alexander.
That was my question.
I mean, Quan, okay, we could be saying, what about Quan? But we've been saying, what about Quan since, like, I don't even know. When's the last time Quan played a full season at this point?
I mean, he had a good year last year.
He had a good year, sure. But Fred Warner had an even better year.
Did he have? Yeah, but did deserve to be in the top 10?
Yeah, actually,
Jamal Adams had a better year than Fred.
Sure, Jamal Adams did have a better year, but I think with that defense, and kind of the way San Francisco set up, I think Fred Warner is going to be the leading tackler. He averaged 32.4 points per game, and that was with one random game in Week 7 where he just so happened to get 6 points. So take that out, it increases it significantly.
But I'm just saying, and then you have him in front of, like, you would never disrespect Luke by putting Fred Warner ahead of Luke. Why would you do that to Bobby Wagner?
Well, sorry, I just hit my mic. The reason
by
being
the way,
is because
can I say this?
Yeah.
Bobby Wagner is next. Bobby Wagner is 8 on our consensus, so he's right after Jamal Adams, and you have neither one of those on there.
Oh,
I don't. And here's the thing. I think as Bobby Wagner gets old, which I had already said in previous episodes during the regular season about Luke Kuechly, they're going to take a hit in production. It's naturally going to happen, and they're starting to get to that age where regression is going to happen at any point. So that's kind of why I prefer to go with a younger stud like Fred Warner, who I think is going to be the forefront of that defense again this coming season.
Okay. So speaking, so I could just hear Cody smiling through the microphone on the other end, like just giggling his heart away over there. So number 8, as you mentioned, Bobby Wagner. Patrick doesn't have him on the list. Cody, you have him at 8. I have him at 7. Here's my thing about Bobby Wagner. Eventually, he's 31 now, 32. So he's getting up there in age. Eventually, he's going to fall off a cliff, right? However, I just can't do that from a fantasy perspective, from a rankings perspective, until I see some evidence of it, right? And he's been a top 5 linebacker since we've been playing IDP, and likely before that. I wasn't looking at the numbers before that, but I would expect all the way back to probably 13 or so that he was probably a top 5 linebacker. So, I mean, is that kind of what you were thinking, Cody? That you just we can't take him off even in his advanced age right now?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's gonna try to predict the future and whatnot, and I mean that's cool. It just, I don't know, you're trying to figure out the next big star, but at the same time, you're leaving out one of the guys that showing no signs of letting up and has been a top guy for so long.
Yeah, I understand. And in my opinion, Bobby Wagner isn't a guy who's like hovering around like 18, 20, or even 15. He's like that 11 range, just like how you kind of look at Jamal Adams, for instance, kind of where I see him right there at the cusp. And I've mentioned this all through last offseason, I guess we'll start this offseason, the average points per game between a number 10 player and a guy who's 20 is literally, we're talking 0.5 points per game to 2 points per game, which in the grand scheme of things is absolutely nothing. So I think when you're kind of picking through the weeds there, the difference between Bobby Wagner making the top 10, not making the top 10, is him going to the sideline, having to wrap his hand and missing a couple drives in a game. And then that lowers it because he's missed an opportunity for a pick or he's missed for a forced fumble, stuff like that. So that's why, and especially at that age, we have that risk still. That's why I have him outside the top 10.
All right. Well, we'll move to number 9, and not to kind of keep beating on Patrick here, but we got Derwin James, another player not inside Patrick's top 10. Cody at 9. I've got him at 9. We saw the bounce back last year. I want to say real quick, he played in 5 games, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. His average over those 5 games was only 30 points because his first 2, his snap counts were lower. His last 3 games, he played 100% of the snaps. His average would have been over 35 points, which would have pushed him up into the top 12. So I think that's what we can more realistically expect is those 3 games from Derwin James. So I felt comfortable putting him back into my top 10 for 2020.
Yeah, I agree. I just think he's got a extremely high ceiling. He's somebody that I feel like Pat could make more of an argument with in terms of not adding him to his list because he's got an injury risk to him as well. But if he's healthy and he's there, he's definitely going to produce.
Yeah, yeah. And that, like I said, I've got both those guys and even Jamal Adams kind of balled there. Derwin James, the injury history, that is something, though, that does kind of scare me.
Okay. And number 10 here, and then we've got a couple questions to get through. Number 10, consensus is Joe Schobert. I had him at 10, Pat at 9. He's not on Cody's board at all, the top 10. I had him here. Pat, I think you love Joe Schobert, all right? You love his ability to get tackles. He kind of sits there in the middle. Likely that this is probably a defense that will be behind, which means teams will likely run the ball on them, I would expect. Not any competition with Miles Jack. He's a nothing. Miles Jack, if you're listening to this, if you're listening to Miles Jack, I hope you know that you are nothing. And Telvin Smith is gone and doesn't appear to be coming back. And I think I put Joe Schobert here because of what we could see from the Telvin Smith role, even though he's that athletic. So that's why he falls in my number 10.
And I think, I've hyped up Joe Schobert for years. I think this is the year. I actually talked to Cody about this probably an hour before we started the show. It's like, what were your thoughts on Joe Schobert? Because now, here's the deal. He just went from a 4.25 back to a 4.3. And we know what he can do in a 4.3. He's really good. But we can't let those skewed 4.25 numbers throw us off here, right? He's not going to be a top 3 linebacker or anything crazy again. That's not going to happen in this defense, despite Jacksonville having a lackluster linebacker core to begin with. I don't see him going that high. So I do think he's going to regress from 2019, but he's still a guy we should consider a top 10 IDP player.
So we got about 10 minutes left. So before we get into some questions here, I just wanted to say a few things. Cody, you've got TJ Watt, not DJ Watt. His brother that plays with the Cardinals. TJ Watt, outside linebacker for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I like that pick. I think that's certainly possible. He didn't make our consensus because you were the only person to put him there. Corey Littleton is in your top 5. I think we know how much you love him. I have some concerns playing in Oakland, or not in Oakland, but in Vegas. Pat, he's off your list altogether. So he's not in our consensus, but I think he's probably right outside my top 10 for sure. I don't know about you, Pat.
Yeah. Corey Littleton's a guy that I think he could. I am interested to see kind of how things change now that he's in a new environment, especially Vegas, where it seems like we see so many linebackers go to just die in the NFL. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe he does make the top 10. I don't think he will. I'd feel way more comfortable putting Bobby Wagner in front of him, Jamal Adams, or Derwin James. So I would have him closer to that 15 to 18 range, probably.
And then Pat, you had a few guys here that weren't on our lists at all. Jabril Peppers at 4. Very, very optimistic about him.
Yes.
And then, of course, Fred Warner at 10. And I think those are your two guys as well. So both of you guys had two players that didn't make our consensus. Jabril Peppers, Pat, I'm an owner in one league, so I hope he finishes 4, but neither myself nor Cody are that optimistic.
He
No.
will not finish in the top 4 in that other league. I guarantee you that, because our league rewards tackles so heavily. That's why I have him in the top 4. And James, we were talking off the show earlier. Your concerns with Blake Martinez being there and hawking a lot of the tackles.
Yep.
And he will, as long as they're stacking the box with Blake Martinez, which they're going to do. But this is going to force teams to actually throw the ball, which is going to give Jabril Peppers more opportunities for interceptions, which is great in the other league that we're in, but it's also great for this league too. And I'm super high on him. I talked about it last year, the coaching staff that he was getting. This is going to help him get to the next level. He is already there at the next level. He's going to stay at the next level. I guarantee you that. This is a deep DB that I'm super excited about. And I think some teams are going to pass on him just because we don't have that long track history of success like some of the other guys like Budda Baker and Jordan Poyer, for instance, or Harrison Smith. So Jabril, yeah, I think he is in our league definitely a top 5 IDP player. In the other league, probably not even top 10.
Okay, that's fair, and he won't slip past me. Trust me, he won't be stolen by anybody, because I'm not going to forget what he did for me last year. So a few questions here. Like I said, that's about 7 minutes, I guess. We're going to hit on some of the bigger ones here. Do we see a rookie? We didn't see any rookies crack the top 10 last year. Do we have any rookies cracking the top 10 or potentially cracking the top 10 in IDP this year?
I don't see it, dude. I mean, I told you and Isaac this last off season just how difficult it is for IDP rookies to actually do that. And people acted like I was crazy because they remembered, the 2018 season, not the years previous to that. And it's extremely difficult for a rookie IDP player to crack the top 10. I'm not saying top 20 isn't, possible, but top 10, yeah, that's gonna be very difficult to do for anyone.
For me, it's absolutely easy to say no. It isn't going to happen. Isaiah Simmons is the only one that has a shot, and that really depends on where he even goes and what role he plays on that team. So we'll see after the draft. But for me, no, there's not a shot. No rookies in the top 10 this year. Cody?
This is just IDP. This is just
just defense. Yeah.
I could see Isaiah getting in the top 10.
Okay. You think it's dependent on where he goes, or do you think he's going to be a monster no matter where he goes?
The situation will definitely switch. It'll definitely depend, but I think ultimately he could succeed anywhere he goes.
Okay.
Just how successful? I mean, yeah, that'll determine where he goes.
Okay. What about number 2? Which one of these guys will be which one of these guys might be sleepers in the draft? It might be passed over a little bit. Pat, you already mentioned Jabril Peppers. I would think, Cody, anyone on your list you think you people might overlook or might not draft as highly? Maybe Jalen Smith,
Deion Jones.
Deion Jones. Okay. Yeah, I actually thought about him.
I'm still believing in that Deion. I'm all in Deion Jones.
Oh, okay.
No, I agree. He's a guy that could definitely get passed on.
Who, Deion?
I think he's gonna.
Yeah. I think Deion's gonna drop. I think Deion might be a guy you could probably get in that 4th or 5th round.
Bro, give him to me. That's where I drafted him. When he first originated on my team, he was in the 5th round. So
yeah,
I'll take that same value.
Who's the
For
biggest?
Me, it's got to be Fred Warner.
Okay.
Me personally, just because just on the conversation we had on the show, I mean, we're talking about a guaranteed, in my opinion, a guaranteed LB1. And if no one's even got him remotely in their top 10, not even close, not even sniffing it, then this is a guy that definitely could end up in the 5th round. And if I'm getting an LB1 in the 5th round, I've already got my quarterback, I've already got my running back plugged in, my receivers and stuff. Oh man, that is a deal. That is a steal. And if Fred Warner follows me that far, that'd be great.
Okay, that's fair. I don't know really who would be on my list because my list, I had the only list that didn't have anybody outside of the consensus, which was weird. Maybe not to harp on it, but maybe Jalen Smith. Maybe people don't take him as seriously, and he falls into the 4th round or something like that, right? I mean, in that case, I would.
Not on my watch.
I'd be. Cody says,
Same
"Nah,
here.
that ain't
Same here.
happening."
Yeah, I don't know about that. I hope he does.
So I don't
Not
know.
on my watch.
There's no one on my list there that I think would fall outside of that. What about anyone on your list that's risky that you look at and you're like, man, like I know this guy might go a little higher than I want to pay for him, or man, I feel optimistic, but we don't know. I mean, any thoughts on any of your guys there?
Dude, there's so many people that are going to go higher than I want.
Okay, like so who's that? So maybe Corey Littleton, Derwin James, TJ Watt.
Yeah, they're all going to go before they're all going to go before I pick. All of them.
Okay.
Like the second, if I pick early in the round, like I won't see that. I won't see any of those players.
Okay. Here's a question for you guys. So Darius Leonard obviously is going to go the first IDP player off the board. What spot does he go? That's what I'm curious. Is like like all the running backs, the Christian McCaffrey, all those guys. Does Darius Leonard go like 10, 12, 8, 18?
Where he should
in
go,
the
in my
draft,
opinion,
he's going top 5.
I think he definitely
Okay.
should go top 5, maybe top 3.
Yeah,
When you
I would
compare
definitely.
his average points per game compared to all these other guys is night and day in a
Okay.
lot of sense.
Okay.
I'm going.
But I still think it may be past 5 just because I think people are going to go rampant over running backs for some
Running
reason.
backs. Yep.
I think you could see Darius fall past 5, which would be disrespect to him.
That's
But
crazy.
great for me if I pick him.
Yeah. Don't let me get number 5 if you guys don't pick him. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would take Darius Leonard.
might be my number 2.
Yeah, CMC.
Yeah.
Darius Leonard.
Maybe 3. Fair. I might pick Saquon, and then I might. I don't know. He might be 4. He might be 4
wait
on my
till
list.
Christian Saquon have the top 2 in my opinion.
So I'll go
without a
Christian,
doubt.
Saquon, and Zeke, and then I would pick Darius.
Yeah.
At 4. Okay.
I can't wait till we do our mock draft episode for our draft. Again, it's gonna be a blast. But yeah, no, yeah, I think you could really support that either way. Let's see, any guys outside of your top 10 that could crack it pretty easily? Any besides the guys we've mentioned? So besides the guys that are right there teetering, anyone else that we haven't talked about that you think could crack your top 10? Like
Tremaine Edmonds.
Okay, he's done it before.
Edmonds, yeah. I think he's gonna have a bounce back year for sure. Hopefully, it's better than last year's. I was pretty disappointed with his performance overall.
Yeah, I don't know. I like him. I think this is the year that he kind of puts it all together. I mean, they got a lot going for him.
Okay. All right, cool. Yeah, I look at the list and I'm thinking of like guys who aren't there. Harrison Smith, no. Justin Simmons, no. Jordan Hicks, maybe. I don't have him on my top 10. That's probably the closest I would think. Not Eric Reed, not Logan Ryan.
Eric Reed depends where he goes, in my opinion. We saw that Carolina was a great fit, and we saw what happened when it was a great fit. But if he goes to a place where he's rotating in and out, that hurts for sure.
What y'all's feeling on Minka?
Oh, I didn't even think about Minka. Yeah. Ooh.
Well, that's a guy I think's definitely he's gonna drop. I think some guys are gonna pass on him, and he's gonna make someone's year for sure at their DB spot.
Oh, that's my guy. That's the guy. That's my guy. That's my number like 13 or something that could jump into my 10. It's Minka Fitzpatrick. I don't know why I didn't think about Minka. Oh, that man's a beast.
It's a good spot.
Oh, we'll see what happens.
So they're going to kind of like change his role a little bit this year. He kind of wants to be able to move around, he said. So I think they're going to incorporate some of that if we get to play. But
Is that good or
That's
bad?
scary. Yeah, I was about to say that kind
I
of
don't
scary.
know if I
well,
like that.
no, it's I feel like it's good because like right
If he's
now
playing downhill
he's
and in the
kind of
box,
feast
that's
or
good.
famine. Yeah, but he's not really in the box right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Edmonds plays in the box.
yeah, he had a lot of like playmaking that made him
Yeah,
fantasy
dude.
relevant. A lot of interceptions
He
and things like that.
yeah, he had like 6 or 7 picks, and then he had a couple of touchdowns.
Mm,
Yeah.
we'll see.
So
Yeah,
I
we'll
think he's
see.
feast or famine in some cases.
One more question, Pat. You put this one in here. Last year we had a cornerback finish in the top 3, Logan Ryan. What are the chances of happening that again? And should owners start taking them more seriously? The answer to that question is no, because we play in a tackle-heavy league. Our league format has changed. The roster sizes have changed. You want a consistent tackler on your team, not I mean, you might every now and then, get a guy who puts up 55 because he gets a pick in a pick 6 or something. But my opinion on that, no, I wouldn't expect a cornerback in the top 3, and I'm not going to go out looking for one simply because Logan Ryan did great last season.
I will say this: if you're looking for a corner, if you have to go corner, and we talked about this during the season, Jameson, go after a starting rookie cornerback, just because, especially if he's your number one, which really sucks for that team. That's great for you because that means he's going to be guarding guys like Michael Thomas, and he's going to get picked apart, and he's going to have to make tackles or get involved in plays, which is a good thing. But you don't want him as your number one. That would be a backup contingency plan if you had to fall back to it.
Yeah. I mean, if you had to like stream a guy for a week or something, fine. But I'm not going to go looking for cornerbacks, especially if I've drafted a safety, already that a Harrison Smith or a Sean Williams or someone that's significantly more reliable on a tackle basis, I guess. But all right, guys. Well, that is it for the show. I think next week we've got some. It's kind of a more laid back show, some quarantine discussion. During this time, there's no sports, right? But I have seen a lot of like old, NFL games and things like that on TV. So I thought maybe we should just talk some old football. Our favorite fantasy moments, NFL games, NFL moments, that kind of stuff. Something that everybody can relate to.
Should do an owner power ranking.
Owner power. Ooh. But we don't have any. But we don't have any players. So how do you want? You mean just like a basic like evaluation of their ability without a roster?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we know their abilities, right? We were just looking at like team names, basing people off of like
Yeah, it's true.
what would make it even. Like,
Oh, we could
You
do
know what we're
that.
2 weeks away from, though?
What? Oh, the schedule reveal.
Yeah, buddy.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, that's gonna be a fun episode too.
Let us know if you guys would prefer. I don't know if we can make it happen or not. But if you prefer a live show for that, or kind of our normal routine where we release it, kind of at the end of the week or whatever. But yeah, let us know if you'd like a live show, or maybe you just want it the usual way where you can just listen to it whenever.
Yeah. Also, comment on this with Cody's idea. Let us know if you would like a power ranking list. Maybe we can even throw in some of the division discussion there. And if so, let us know where you think your power ranking should be. If you think you're 4, 1, 8, 21, wherever you think you're ranked in the league, comment on that video. Let us know. All right, Pat, play us out, man.
All
We're done.
adios, amigos.